I'm on by Zoom. Can you hear me?
You can talk for a second.
What's that?
I just unmuted for 1 second.
Oh, okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, welcome to our February 3rd Cottonwood Heights work session meeting. And we're glad that you're all here. And our first item on the agenda is a review of the business meeting agenda. And after following the Pledge of Allegiance, which I have asked Councilmember Burrell if he would do that, be delighted. Then we will have citizen comments. And following our citizen comments, we will have reports. And our first report will be from Assistant Chief Riley Pilgrim from the Unified Fire Authority, their quarterly report. And following that report, we will have a finance quarterly report from Scott Jervis. Okay. And then we have two action items. Resolution 2026-10, approving an agreement with Perkins Engineering Incorporated for engineering services. And this item, I've heard from some council members that we'd like to discuss a bit in this meeting, in this work session, that there are some questions for our staff. So
You want to go do a preview? real
Yeah,
quick?
yeah, I can give an overview of kind of what this is for. So, this is to do the road maintenance on Highland Drive. So if you've driven Highland Drive, you know, that there's that it's deteriorating and needs to have some maintenance done to it to be able to preserve its life. So this is just essentially a design to do the mill and overlay, a 4-inch mill and overlay from, it's on Highland from Bengal to about the Starbucks, and then from Dan's to the La Cresta intersection. So it doesn't take into account the Fort Union intersection that was done just a few years ago. And then as part of this as well, we are looking at if there are ADA improvements that need to be made along at the crosswalks within the project area. So that's generally what the services are for.
As I read the minutes, it also, I read the packet. It also includes looking at additional striping for a 3rd lane through.
Okay, so it is not for the, okay, yeah, so there's some striping considerations that are a part of this contract. It is not to add a full lane through Highland. We've discussed that project, and that's where you guys had asked us to do a study, and we're getting close to finishing that. But this is just to, right now, that center lane really bulbs out in the middle, and we get a lot of phone calls saying, you know, there's so much space in the middle lane. Why do we neck down the lane so early? So we just asked Perkins as part of this to do an evaluation and see if there is an option to allow that 3rd lane to continue a little bit further north. It's not going to be much, but just to maximize the road space that we have. So to try to mitigate some of that congestion that comes from that going from 3 to 2 lanes.
So this does not include construction to widen the road.
No, this isn't right.
Well, okay, so I read it that the Perkins contract is based on phase 2 and phase 3 of the Highland Drive project.
So no, so they're separate. So this is just the maintenance, and then it's looking at how far we can take that 3rd lane. Because essentially right now there's not enough asphalt to put the 3rd lane through, and we're not doing any widening. We're keeping the same asphalt width. It's just trying to figure out, can we optimize that center turn lane to give us 3 lanes a little bit longer before it merges down.
So, Ben, I know, I don't remember if it was the last council meeting or before then. I remember bringing up the question of, if we were to eventually do a 3rd lane hypothetically, would this end up costing us more money by putting this down now and then needing to do some improvements later? And Matt Ship at the time said that if we don't do this now, it'll end up being probably way more expensive to actually fix down the road if we waited through that process. And so he was saying we probably need to do it now, and then we'll come back with the study on the 3 lanes or whatever, and then council can decide if that's something that we A, want, or B, have in the budget. But that this fixing it right now is pretty critical to not cost the city more by waiting. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's because the phase 2 and the widening that we have the grant money for, those aren't projects that are going to be funded for 4 or 5 more years. So by that time, the Highland would have deteriorated to the point where we would have to do a full rebuild, which would cost, you know,
Well,
exponentially more than what we're proposing.
okay, so the information in my packet, which I'm referring to these many diagrams that are almost indiscernible because of the size and the way the colors are on it. This is not, so I was surprised to see this in the agenda, and if it's not related to phase 2 or it's definitely related to the phase 1, 2, and 3, because here's Bengal Boulevard and so forth to the north up to Fort Union Boulevard, up to La Cresta. Because if you'll recall, over the last couple of years, Councilmember Highland and I have expressed concerns about phase 2 and phase 3 of this Highland Drive project, and that we were interested, instead of the consideration of a third lane, looking at ways to use the asphalt that we have to make both the intersection area south of Fort Union Boulevard safer for all, for motorists who are trying to make their U-turns across the, so I don't understand what the Perkins contract, this appears to be new information.
So can I
Yeah,
address
please.
that? So whether or not we do the Highland Trail, this is something that would have to be done as part of pavement preservation. This is a similar thing that we just did on Fort Union from around Nut Tree to Wasatch, where we just milled up the road and placed a layer of asphalt to preserve the life of the pavement. So what we're doing is trying to preserve Highland Drive so that we don't have to do a full rebuild, which is something that we would have to do whether or not we add a trail. If we add a trail, then there's, we need to do additional things to add the facilities, but this is just preserving the pavement that already exists on Highland.
And so this is, to me, a perfect example of looking for efficiencies. The efficiency that I see as a real possibility is to look at the way that the lanes currently exist. And if we're especially going to be repaving, not reconstructing, but repaving the surface, this would be the time to say, wow, an island would be appropriate, and or the shifting of the lanes so that we can have the commuter traffic move as fluidly as possible. So to me, to resurface the road without giving consideration to relatively inexpensive ways to make it safer for all users and to have commuter traffic flow, I wouldn't want to see this advance without a shared vision for what could be done, again, for best efficiencies, best use of taxpayer dollars.
I don't necessarily disagree. I do want to see improvements to this road, and I don't know what the solutions are, so I'm looking forward to this study, because I think there's a lot of pain points no matter how you get around on Highland Drive. And I think it just sticks with me that Matt made it very clear, Matt Schiff, that this doesn't change anything. It doesn't add, doesn't take away. This is purely we just need to make sure that we prolong the life of this road, right?
Right.
And so I'm with you. I'm hoping that we can see improvements, but we probably don't have it in the budget to do any of these other things that we may want to do, is probably my guess.
It'd be a longer process because you'd have to budget it in and then following years
Yeah.
for any additional funds you want to put towards. Right now, this is the engineering. To me, it's a maintenance issue. It's not, we're not expanding the road. We are looking at a couple things while we're doing the maintenance, but if you want to add medians, if you're wanting to add anything additional to the road, that's a bigger study than what we're looking at. I mean, this is maintenance of the road.
But it doesn't prevent us from doing that in the future,
No.
should they want.
It's the same asphalt width, same material. It's just we're trying to maintain this road, so it's not more expensive down the road.
Well, I'm all for maintaining it. But I, in my experience, watching the projects that go on, we need to figure out how we can more efficiently and effectively maintain the roads that we have, because it is so tremendously expensive. So I would not be able to vote in favor of advancing this Perkins project strictly with blinders on about the possibilities of avoiding, frankly, phase 2 and phase 3 of the Highland project, which are, in my opinion, flawed. So I don't see why we have to vote on this tonight. And my request would, and I'll make it in the business meeting, would be to table this and give our new mayor a chance to look into this and understand it. That's where
So would postponing this 2 weeks make a difference for the project? 'Cause this is-
So what we're trying to do right now, so basically what we will get from Perkins is a set of bid documents that we can put out to bid to get this, to get Highland reconstructed or milled and overlaid this summer. And so we're we're kind of fighting time on getting good prices for the bid season, just because, you know, it'll take several weeks to do the design and then several weeks of bidding. Where, you know, March and April is kind of your peak time to get those bids out.
Does council member Highland have any comments? If she has any questions?
Well, my questions are how this overlaps, as Councilmember Burrell has discussed, with the phase 2 and phase 3, and when those reports are gonna come back to us, because I remember that we did approve funds for a study for those projects.
No?
That's why I was wanting to postpone it a couple of weeks, so that I could understand it better.
So I guess this. Okay, so there are improvements that we could try to find to stick into this project. But we don't have the funds that those improvements are looking at. So the phase 2 and phase 3 and the Highland widening, that is all based on a grant that we'll get funds for in 4 or 5 years, where right now we're just trying to say, let's hold on to Highland a little bit longer before it falls into disrepair and we have to do a complete rebuild of the road.
I think
Well, I just wanted to state it, and whether this is right or wrong, whether it makes it better or worse, I just want to let you know, in most communities, this is not a decision that comes before the council because the code is written the way it is. All the contracts have to come before the council. This would be typically covered under maintenance under a city's capital projects fund. This would be regular road maintenance that we would just do as administrative action, and not, because we're not expanding, because we're not technically changing the road. This would be the regular maintenance that a city would do. Right or wrong, I'm just letting you know that's kind of
that's
the
helpful.
background.
Can I pose a quick question just to my colleagues here? I think if we're wanting to address potential investments in Highland Drive and ways to improve it in the next, I would even say a couple of months or even the next month, of where we're wanting to make this more of a robust kind of approach. I think it's probably worth delaying if we want to do that. If we don't have either the funds or the real vision in place to be able to, if it's a median, if it's more trails or other things, if that's not something we're planning on really tackling right now, then we probably should move ahead with just getting the maintenance done and then addressing those later. And I don't have the answer. I guess I'm posing that question of what the sentiment is on the council of how robust we're planning on engaging on this within the next, because it sounds like it needs to be done sooner rather than later, right?
Yeah.
Ben, is that right?
And my concern is we've heard it does, in 5 years, we're gonna be in a whole different state. And if we try to wait this out,
Oh,
we're gonna be in trouble. And
Yeah.
the roads
I
are-
want to go on record. I'm not suggesting that we wait this out for 4 or 5 years. That is not what I am.
That's not what I said either.
okay, so
I said, we've heard that in 4 or 5 years, this will be in a different point in dilapidation. What we want to do now is address the issues so that we're making sure they're as safe as possible at the time. And we're also looking at the cost of this now versus in the future.
I think if I understand, and thank you, both of you, for what you've added, everybody. So if what I think I'm hearing from the council is there a way to add any look at other uses for Highland in this scope? Can we add that within 2 weeks or not? If not, then we should just move ahead in my mind, because I don't want to hold it for 2 weeks just to not add anything to it.
I think that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, in the way of the vision of more pedestrian or bike friendly on Highland Drive. What, am I incorrect, Councilmember Burrell?
Well, for me, it's deja vu all over again, but that's what this council majority sees. That's what the staff wants, and I am the lone voice for this, so I will acquiesce. And it's not it's a majority, and I just feel like this, we don't have well, anyways, what the note I've made to be solution oriented is I am going to get out the capital investment schedule for Public Works and familiarize myself more deeply with what is on the schedule. Because if the Highland Drive has been on the schedule in the 5-year plan for resurfacing, now it's come up fresh to me because I don't look at your capital investment plan on a regular basis, but I do know that one exists. I think it's part of the 5-year transportation plan for the city. And so for your department, you might have been, well, we've been planning on this for the last 2 years. Why doesn't Councilmember Burrell, get with? So I'm going to say, I'm interested. I'm going to look at that and look ahead into the future. Because I've always thought that, as we do these, especially the reconstruction, I realize this is a surfacing. And I just, again, my interest is in best efficiencies, safety for the public, which should never wait. For me, safety on our streets is an investment. It's not an expense. So those are my comments.
I don't disagree, but right now, we don't have the budget to put additional things in. Right now, we're barely have the budget to maintain our roads, and that's the discussion we're having in our retreat and what we've been talking about. We don't disagree, and I don't think staff disagrees with you. It's that this is maintenance that needs to happen on the road, which is what we're doing. If we go and we try to add all those other things, that adds additional expense, it adds additional time. We're probably pushing this off till next year if we're going to add additional things to the scope, because you all have to come up with what else you want to see in there. And then we're back to the study that we've already commissioned, or we've already funded, and I think Matt's been working on putting together.
And this is in our maintenance budget already.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a capital.
Yeah.
Capital maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes.
I just want to say how much I appreciate the discussion. I think where I got thrown off a little bit, and maybe I could say for Councilmember Burrell too, was in the scope, it said you were looking at the 3rd lane and if there's enough width. And so I was conflating this to be part of what we've already approved for expansion of the road, or looking at, what's possible there. If this is truly maintenance, I have a different perspective, and I would say we should go ahead.
So
Well, that was something we've gotten a lot of calls and complaints about is the efficiency of the northbound lane. And we were just trying to find a way to optimize that transition. And if that's, that's not something that you guys are comfortable with, that's something we could easily take out of the scope as well. It was just an attempt to try to come up with an interim solution until we get that grant funding.
but it's not pushing the 3rd through lane all the way. It's
No,
trying
no.
to figure out if we can take it a little further.
Because we don't have, on the north side of the intersection, we don't have the asphalt for a 3rd lane right now. So this is just seeing where it will go to the north, but it definitely wouldn't go through the intersection.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. And that's what I had talked to Scott Bracken about this, and that's what he was saying. It would be nice to know how much width you have. But there's the pinch point between the 2 banks on the north side, the Czech City and I think it's Wells Fargo.
Yeah.
So thank you, Ben, for the explanation. I just had misunderstood the scope.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that
Yeah,
help?
I think that answers our questions. Thank you so much. Okay, back to the review of the business meeting agenda. Following that resolution, there is a consideration of resolution 2026-11 ratifying revised council committee assignments. And then the next item on the business agenda is the approval of our consent calendar, the approval of some minutes from our past meetings. Okay, now coming back to this meeting, we have our staff reports. So the first item under our staff reports is our flash vote discussion, and we'll turn the time over to Jared.
And this should be quick. Hopefully you all got the link to this. And you've had a chance to look at it. So this is the latest survey that we sent out regarding property taxes and surveys and services, sorry. So I'm just going to go through this real quick, and then you've got the link so you can go through it in a little more detail and read through the 160 plus comments if you'd like as well. I haven't been able to get through all of them. I think I got through about 50 so far. So the first question was, were you aware of how much basically property tax Cottonwood Heights gets from the property tax bill? You can see here that the majority knew that we got less than 50%, but didn't realize it was below 15%. They're about 22% of the respondents that knew that we got less than 15% of their total bill. Sorry, real quick, there were 342 participants. 309 of those were part of our 615 that are in our existing pool. And again, we sent out another article in the newsletter this week or this month that tries to get more people to sign up, and this number's continued to grow over time as word's gotten out. 33 other people found the survey through other means and took it as well. So, second question was talking about the services we provide, and if you think that how you feel about the level of service you get for the average $586 per home that you pay. Obviously, some people pay more, some people pay less, but that's the average to the city for each year. And 68% said yes, they think they get a good value for what they're paying. If we were to shift some of our spending priorities is the next question. And you can see here that they were able to choose 5. But the ones that hit the 50% mark were all roads, sidewalks, trails, and open space questions. So you can kind of see where the priorities lie with a lot of our residents there. And then how would you spend $100 if you had it across projects? Again, you're going to see that the majority of these came out to people wanting to spend more on repair of existing streets, repaving existing streets, and adding or repairing sidewalks. And bike lanes came in a 4th there as well. So again, transportation and access related, and where these all came out. Those are the 4 main questions, and then the question 5 is all the individual responses, which you can read individually, 165 total. There is an AI generated summary, which is kind of interesting too. So it goes through all there and kind of gives you a summary of what all the comments said. So any questions on that? I told you I'd be quick. I didn't need 20 minutes. I can take more if you like, but hopefully you got a chance to look through it, take some time, go through it, make your comments. Let me know if you've got any questions or concerns or feedback on it.
I do.
Okay.
May I?
Yes.
So in a constituent meeting the other day, out of the people at the table, of which there were 9 of us, I believe there were 4 of us that had signed up for Flashvote. But I was the only one at the table who received the Flashvote survey, and the other 3 citizens did not. And I wondered what you were able to find out through Flashvote of why, is there a malfunction? What could explain that 3/4 of
Yeah,
us?
not that we're aware of, but I mean, they were kind enough to give us their contact information and told anybody that has that issue to reach out to them. I mean, we obviously had 309 people out of 615 that got it, so they responded. So I can't tell you exactly unless we look into each account specifically.
May I interject a little bit about that? Because I received the survey. My husband's also signed up, and his went into his spam. It got sorted into spam for his Android phone. So that's probably a problem that lots of companies have, but that may be partially why some people didn't receive it.
But it does come in via text. I've never known of a text message being spam.
And Androids have a spam filter. A Samsung Galaxy phone, a Google Pixel phone have a spam
I
filter.
missed because of that. But just a reminder too, you can also go through, and so if anybody has problems, have them reach out, and we'll get with Flashvote and we can check their individual accounts.
Because when the flash vote is actually occurring, there's no way for a citizen to know that it's occurring. Do you know what I mean? So there's no way, had they not been sitting at the
Right.
table with me,
That's a good
that
point.
so there could be dozens or hundreds. I mean, so I do think this is a serious problem. That's not our problem. This is Flashvote. We've contracted, we've paid them, and in my opinion, they should give us, it should be their problem. They should be able to explain.
Do we know when the flash vote is coming? Could it be on our website or? Could it
Yeah, we
be-
can plan further ahead, stick it on the website, probably the newsletter. Yeah, we can definitely work on the timing on that. So
Well, and another item quickly, that I would, I feel strongly that there are, matters that we need to get, feedback from our citizens on. And I understand that, based on last year's, council meeting where each council member was able to identify, a subject that they wanted to have the flash vote cover. And my selection was on called intersections. That's how it appears in our packet. And because of the time sensitivity to the decision of our city to decide whether we're going to stay in the Utah Renewable Communities Program, I would like to release the intersection topic and instead have my chosen topic be surveying our residents on whether they want the city to stay in the Utah Renewable Communities Program.
Is that, do we have time to change what our questions are?
Yeah,
They
we
haven't even developed,
Yeah,
started.
survey questions for the next one yet.
Well, that seems fine, right? If a council member wants to change their topic.
I'm okay with that. My issue, and I know we'll get into this, is we don't even know the parameters of the URC yet because the Public Service Commission hasn't approved the program. So may I just respectfully request that when we survey that we know what the parameters are of the program?
Yes, I think we have at least 90 days after that is set, so we could set our flash vote for after that.
That would be satisfactory to me.
So I ask a question then, if that's the next one, that's probably 90 days out at least then, or no? Do we know when they're gonna, or have they have any kind of timeline about setting that?
I think that we might hear in our presentation.
Okay.
I think, but I think we should know soon.
So I would just ask, is that likely the next one, or do we want to do one of the other two topics prior to that? So we have short-term rentals and general plan.
How are they, how far apart are they, or do we choose?
We can choose, I mean, you don't want to overwhelm people with them, but these are pretty short surveys, so if they're a few weeks apart, I don't think it's a problem.
Councilmember Highland, what is your feeling? When would you like the short-term rental survey?
I would like to do the short-term rental survey after we have some Granicus data to know how many actual rentals we have in the city that are not licensed. And at least to have a better idea of how much compliance we're going to get. So because of the delay in implementation of the Granicus software, I would like to probably postpone that short-term rental survey for now.
Okay, and the other topic was general plan. I think Jim and I probably still need to meet and talk about that and see when we feel like we're ready to gather some information and take that public, when we're getting ready to do all the public comment again, I think it's probably, so. No timeline yet. But
Okay.
We'll work on that, then we'll just bring it to you as things come up, I think.
Okay. So potentially, once we hear from the Public Service Commission, this could be the next one in a month or sooner. And it would be great to have it on the website and shared
Yeah.
through the city emails. Do we know how many emails go out from our city? Like I receive our city emails. Do we know how many residents do?
We can check.
I'm trying to remember the number. We do know how many. Dee told me a couple weeks ago and I can't remember the number.
Does it depend on what topic they
Depends on which
use?
topic they sign up on. There's a whole, I think I don't even want to say a number because I can't remember what she told me. I'm just gonna see if I can post it. But so we have to be careful as to what we send out to them depending on the topics they sign up for, because we don't want to abuse that as well.
Is one of the topics general? I can't remember how they go, but that's a good question. I've always wondered how many people sign up, what percentage of our population
Yeah,
signs
right,
up.
the
for
numbers.
emails.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, is there anything further on the flash vote discussion? Okay, seeing none, then we will turn the time over to Jim Spun, our Community and Economic Development Director for our general plan.
Thanks, Mayor. So we sent out the memo with just a brief update. There's not really a whole lot to add from what's in the memo. So I did have a call with Sam last week. He's our lead consultant with Landmark Design. We've delivered all of the materials that we've created as part of our subcommittee groups and this group. So we've delivered that to them and they're going to review that and come up with a new scope and budget to get the project finished. So they're working on that now. I'm not sure what their timing is. I'm guessing in the next week or two, we'll have that back and then that will help inform next steps. But right now, they're working on that. And then after we get that figured out, the next step will be public engagement and, you know, essentially communicating everything that we've come up with to the public to get their feedback. And then once we have general consensus with the council and the public and all those efforts are done, we'll let the consultant go back and update the draft to actually draft the narrative with supporting images and graphics for the document. And then that will come back to the group as well. So still in motion, but in probably next month, we'll have more to update.
So the few edits that we agreed on in the last joint meeting on general plan. Are they in the email that you sent it as an email? Because it wasn't in the packet here.
Yeah, so we made updates to the draft that was distributed to everybody with the vision and the goals and the strategies. So based on the last meeting, we went in and made notes and comments and updates and sent that updated version to the consultant.
So, because I had in my notes the certain edits, and so will I be able to see what was sent to the consultant then? With the edits that we
Yeah, I can
agreed
forward
on?
it to you if you'd like.
Okay, because I had like 4,
Mhm.
were highlighted. Is that to your recollection? Were there about 4 places? that
Yeah,
were
I mean,
edited?
I was taking notes during the meeting and everything, but
Yeah.
if you want to forward me your notes, I can pass those along as well to Sam and make sure that they capture that.
Okay,
So, and this is all still very much working draft. So once they get everything in a digestible format to share with the public, then we can come back to this group and say, hey, you know, we've condensed the 12-page document that we created into an online interactive or survey. I'm not sure how we're going to engage the public, but we can come back and share that with you before we schedule that.
well, I
So-
think my primary concern was that I thought we had a consensus that when we talked about the key mission statement that encompassed all, not just coming out of the subcommittees. Or maybe it was under land use. But at any rate, it was the importance that, you know, our city highly values I think it was land use because it was about the, you know, various generations and
Yeah,
the
aging in place, yeah.
yeah, and providing for that as
Mhm.
kind of more important even than the economic piece. Because I felt that it was, as it can be,
Mhm.
you know, very based on economics versus the quality of life of the residents that live in our city,
Yeah, that was the land use, and that was included in that version that we sent
right?
to
Okay,
to Sam.
great. That was, I had some other notes, but that was a
Mhm.
real key concern. Great, thank you.
Yep.
Okay,
So, yeah, that's it.
that's it. Okay, we're moving very quickly. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Sure.
The general plan, I think, is looking really good. I think our meeting went well and.
Mhm.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is a discussion of the Blue Sky program. We'll turn the time over to Councilmember Sean Mendel.
Great. I'm glad you said discussion. Everybody keeps saying a presentation, not a presentation. What I want to do is just get some clarity here, understand the ask, and why this is a program that folks want to be a part of. And to a big greater understand. I got it. The positioning. Yeah. Oh, he's got it. Okay. The greater understand the positioning we have concerning the URC. So from what I've researched and found, the Utah Renewable Communities Program is mirrored by the Blue Sky program. This is a program that already exists through Rocky Mountain Power. So my first question was, why would we initiate a program as a city and pull all of our residents in when they actually have the choice now to participate in this program without us having to carry on these additional costs in notification and so forth for all of our residents? To me, that just doesn't sound right when there's something that's out there. Now, we need to explain to our residents, and I've heard from a lot of residents that they wanted to be a part of the program. I said, that is great. But we didn't, during any discussion, say, did you know that there's the Blue Sky program that exists from Rocky Mountain Power currently that has the same exact parameters except for the costs that would come to the city in additional costs to the residents based on, notification. Another concern of mine was, as I'm looking into data, current data, we have a decrease in our population, somewhere around 0.4%. So stating that, this program, if we do it through the URC, when residents determine that they do not want to be a part of it and they opt out, I'm still working on the clarity of this. If that loss of revenue from Rocky Mountain Power goes back to those that are still within the program. So far, what I've seen, that is the case. So that's an escalating rate for residents if they stay in after others opt out. So I just wanted to throw out a couple of numbers there, if that happens. So say that everybody stays in, we're looking at, at the highest rate, $4, like $48 annually for residents. If we lose 50% of the residents, if they opt out of that, we're looking at now $96 annually. And if 25% of the residents remain, we lose that another additional 25%, we're looking at $192 a year that would be added to that. Now, I'm still waiting for clarity. I'm just going to say that from the program from Blue Sky in my research to see if that would be the case. From what I understand, though, is that as new renewables come on board, that cost is calculated by Rocky Mountain Power, and they create a projected cost that will be moved on. They call them our Rocky Mountain Power tariff rates. These would be actually the responsibility of those within that program. So there's additional cost for residents. My consternation comes from right now in our situation where we're looking at adding all of these additional costs onto residents and not being clear about those costs that are potential here within the program. Now, and I mean, I want to get answers from everybody. I just really want to understand this. If we are asking our residents to take on something involuntarily, which they can voluntarily opt out of, where is the issue with them knowing about the program they could already opt into with the same parameters and not have that concern about escalating rates, in addition to other escalating rates that will take place with Rocky Mountain Power? That's my first question.
Okay,
Anybody?
so I'm glad this will be a discussion. I have some people that, I don't know if they're joining us online or in the meeting from URC. So they can answer these questions now. Do you?
Yeah, that's fine.
That-
I'm
Come
great.
on up, and then that would be great. So we all want to
Yeah,
get the
yeah.
facts.
And as
Yeah.
as they're coming
Okay, we
up,
have a chair, right? Okay.
the other thing that I understand that those that are already that have solar, they will still have to pay this rate.
Unless they opt out.
Unless they opt out, they will be part of that. So they've already done their work. They said, oh, I'm doing my part for the ecology of the state. But here now, I'm in this position to where I opt out. Now, notifications, I understand the notifications will go out. I don't know how many people are gonna look in their bill. If they're like me, they look at the part where they gotta pay. They're not gonna look at everything else on that bill, and I call that a trap. It's just something that we don't have the ability to really emphasize to folks, and the cost of doing so, to say, this is what you're gonna get, this is how it is, and you're already in this program, but you do have an option to opt out. I just think that puts us in a precarious situation, and for our residents,
Okay.
that especially those that just are not informed. The biggest thing I really worry about is this. I'm thinking about the addition of, of additional renewable energies that are being proposed. For example, the nuclear plant that's going to go up in northern Utah. That is not free, right?
Pay for nothing.
Who's going to pay for that? Those of us that have a Rocky Mountain Power bill, right? Those are the types of things that are not visible to our residents that should be visible. And given the choice, I'm all about choice. This is great. But I want our residents to know that there is the Blue Sky program, And then also give them the same information that there is a Utah Renewable Communities Program. Now, I do not want to be responsible for putting them in a program when they have another program that mirrors it that's available to them right now where they can opt in. I'm one that will probably opt in because this is something that I agree with, but I don't want to put that burden on all the rest of our residents. And that's, 32,000 plus people. I just can't see that. I can't fathom doing that without complete clarity and understanding of how this program works and understanding that there's an escalation in it too. That would be something that would be detrimental to me. And is that the case right now? If people opt out, do the rest of the folks that are still in the program pick up that cost?
So please introduce yourself.
Oh,
We're
sure.
glad you're
Yeah, I'm just here, baby.
We're glad you're here, and we think this is an important discussion, so I want to thank Councilmember Newell for raising these questions. Because we as council members want to look at all the options and all the negatives and positives, so I thank you.
I don't know if we've met. My name is Emily Quinton. I work for Summit County as the Sustainability Director. And Summit County is part of URC along with Cottonwood Heights and the 17 other communities. I have been serving as the secretary to the URC board since its inception. So in addition to representing Summit County in this effort and being pretty heavily involved in the program design, and then also on the low income plan committee, which some of your former staff helped to facilitate. I've just kind of seen the agency sort of the whole way through. So honestly, I commend you for doing research into these programs because I feel like in 5 years, it's taken me that long to sort of understand some of this nuance. So I don't know like what would work best. I can sort of attempt to address those questions directly. I could take a step back first. Like
Step back.
Okay.
Like your presentation.
Okay, sure. So I know that you all have been talking about URC, so I, recognizing that I might repeat some of the things that you've already discussed. I did just want to cover a few overview items, and then I think that I can attempt to address some of the questions that have been brought up, but then obviously we should continue the discussion that's been going. So as I mentioned, Summit County is one of the communities that's been involved in URC. So to the extent that I can speak a little bit to, what I've heard our council's interest to be, I'll try to share that as well. Do you want me to use that clicker?
I was going to, but I think it's dead.
Okay.
So you just tell me when.
Okay, go ahead to the next slide. So you might have seen some of the overview information so far that, as a coalition of 19 communities, we're working to develop this new URC program, all in partnership with Rocky Mountain Power. And as you obviously already are aware, that under the new program, which has been proposed, which has not yet been approved, participating businesses would have a new option for where their energy comes from RMP. And we're proposing that the clean energy that serves this program comes from both existing clean energy resources that are serving the Rocky Mountain Power Grid, as well as new resources. These are the, probably the resources that are more on mind when you're thinking about URC, like new utility scale clean energy facilities that would come online to serve the program. Because of this part of the program where we would be sort of as a collective bringing on new utility scale clean energy, that's where this program has the potential to be fairly transformative in terms of bringing on a significant amount of new clean energy. And we've been working on this for a long time. This whole journey is possible due to the Community Renewable Energy Act that was passed in 2019 and then the subsequent rules. And it was actually in those that are enabling legislation and the rules that were adopted where it was defined as a program where participants would be automatically enrolled and have this option to opt out. And I'll definitely say you're not the first community to have some concerns about that makeup of the program. Next slide. So I think, again, you've already discussed this, but in terms of some of the motivation here to develop the program, creating a new choice, an additional choice for clean energy for folks is definitely a big motivation. One of the stats that we think is kind of cool to think about, we know that not all 19 communities may continue on, but as of right now, are the 19 communities that are involved represent about a quarter of Rocky Mountain Power's electricity sales within the state of Utah. So we do feel like we're kind of a, a significant player, and that helps to just represent kind of the scale of what URC is going for. Next slide. So this is getting in a bit more to what was just being talked about in terms of kind of the experience for the customer. So upon program launch, all customers would remain Rocky Mountain Power customers. So Rocky Mountain Power will continue their obligation to provide reliable power to everyone. This program is really a supplement to that, just base level status as an RMP customer. As you know, customers would be automatically enrolled with the option to opt out. The way that it's been proposed right now is there would be no fee to opt out, but eventually there would be a termination fee that will be part of what is included in the Public Service Commission's ruling on the program. In terms of the what will it cost? I wish we knew for sure. We've been waiting for so long, but kind of the best that we can say right now is that going into this whole process the past year with the Public Service Commission, the URC board adopted a resolution about a year ago, kind of stating out a stance that we wanted to go about how we were arguing for the design of the program, so that it would ideally cost no more than about $3 to $4 per month for the average household. And then a few other components that have been built into the how the program is proposed to run. We've proposed that qualifying low-income customers who want to keep participating would receive a monthly bill credit to offset that additional cost to participate. And should they choose to leave the program later on, that they would never have a termination fee. You mentioned the notices that would go out to each customer. So in the rules for the program, those notices, those two notices that have to go out have to be separate from the monthly bill to hopefully increase the chance that people would see it. But I agree. I mean, I also don't always read all my mail super closely. And so that's why we have like sort of these working groups among the URC board. We have the program design committee, the low income plan committee, and the communications committee. So between the communications committee and the low income plan committee, there's a lot of additional education and outreach that we're readying for, because we really don't want to catch people off guard. So so for example, like through the low income plan committee, we have a listserv of community-based organizations that work with low-income community members on fixed income, and we would work through them to try to get information to their clients as a way to supplement those notices that are going out. So that's some of the stuff that is sort of proposed for the program. Next slide, please. This slide has many components, but just to kind of run you through how we got here. So the bill and the act was passed in 2019. Then communities initially became eligible to participate in this effort by adopting a renewable energy goal. Cottonwood Heights was among those, Summit County, many others. This requirement actually has since been removed from the legislation, but it still is part of the journey that we've all been on, so it's worth mentioning. After that, the communities got together, and the way that the Community Renewable Energy Act really was kind of written was that communities can work together to propose a program of Rocky Mountain Power. So the idea was that instead of like 5 different communities trying to propose different programs, the communities would work together to propose one single program. So there was a governance agreement drafted and made available, and communities started adopting that back in 2021. Cottonwood Heights was among kind of the first group as we got going back in July 2021. And then one of the things that among the many things that we've been working on over the last few years to design the program, there was another agreement, something called the utility agreement, which kind of lays out roles and responsibilities once the program would launch. Next section. And really the meat of what we've been focused on in the last few years, which, if being honest, like it's taken way longer than we thought it was going to take to get here. This process of negotiating the program details with Rocky Mountain Power, it did take a really long time. It has been a very careful and deliberate effort with these working groups of the board meeting regularly. There was like a couple of years of weekly meetings with Rocky Mountain Power. One of the things that took a little longer than we were expecting, so originally we thought that we would basically like piggyback off of PacifiCorp, the parent company of Rocky Mountain Power. They had like a system-wide solicitation for new resources that they released in 2022, then they delayed it in 2023, and then they ultimately canceled it in 2024. So instead of piggybacking off of that to look for new resources, we realized we would have to develop our whole own solicitation. So that became part of what got filed to the Public Service Commission in November of 2024, and then we continued on with the rest of the program application. So next steps to come is the program approval, which could come anytime. And then, as you also already know, the last step in this journey, which would be adopting the ordinance within 90 days of that approval. Next slide. So this is the thing that, like, as secretary, I am really wanting to make sure every community is aware of, and I think this is all on your radar so far, thanks to Sheldon, Jim being involved, Mayor Benyon, thanks for joining our meeting yesterday. We do want to make sure everybody knows the ordinance is obviously coming. We have a draft of the ordinance that was filed to the Public Service Commission as part of the program application. And I am currently working with each community to start like filling in the blanks with like your community name and references to your council. So I actually have that prep for Cottonwood Heights, and can share it with you just so you can take a look of, you know, were you to be contemplating this ordinance quite soon, hopefully, what exactly does it say? And I think that you had mentioned, council member, you're aware that there is that final cost that as a community, any of us that approves the ordinance would be bearing, which is to reimburse Rocky Mountain Power for those notices that go out to customers. And that's one of the provisions in the ordinance, for example, like that's kind of where we obligate ourselves to doing that. Next slide. So this was what I wanted to make sure that you all had, and I think that this is all on your radar in terms of, you know, ways that you can learn more, that we're thrilled to have Cottonwood Heights resume having some board members that can start joining. And then obviously I mentioned I can provide that copy of that ordinance. So that was kind of my like URC overview. I feel like now I could pause for follow-up questions that, or I could kind of dive into addressing some of the questions that you had raised, council members.
And I also looked at the board and some of the parameters on the board. The board is in place indefinitely, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Essentially.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, so once somebody's on the board, it takes an act of Congress to remove.
Oh,
Yeah.
I would say most of the turnover we've had so far has been either council members who don't run for re-election, or in the case of some other, like, I don't know, I'm sure it's different in each community. Summit County, they've kept the same council member on the board multiple years in a row, but other communities like Moab, they'll switch it out just to have a different.
But in your
council member.
bylaws, it states
Yeah.
indefinitely.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that you mentioned is you're not sure of cost,
Yeah.
which is concerning.
Mhm.
So with that in mind, why would an individual household state that they would do something that is involuntary versus voluntary?
Mhm. So we're not sure about costs right now because we're waiting for that Public Service Commission order on the program.
Mm.
What we anticipate to come, essentially like what's been sort of the request to the Public Service Commission, is to approve this program. But underneath that are many kind of sub bullets of individual details that will come out when the Public Service Commission decides. So the way that we envision kind of what this might look like. So we would get a Public Service Commission order. In that order, we'd know the initial rate. So that when Cottonwood Heights, when Summit County, once we're in that 90-day window to consider adopting the ordinance, that's one of the pieces of information we'll finally have. And I imagine that will probably play a role in some communities' decision whether or not to adopt the ordinance, is sort of a sense of, does this initial rate feel like it's something we're comfortable having homes and businesses be enrolled in? You know, yes, they've got the option to opt out, but obviously that's going to be a concern. So yeah, it's hard now because we don't know, but we will know that by the time that we're contemplating the ordinance. In terms of kind of how it compares to some of those other existing options for renewable energy. So we've done some, again, this is not we can't say it's official because we don't have that initial program rate from the Public Service Commission. We do think it's possible that the URC program might cost about half of what the Blue Sky program costs, kind of on a per unit of energy basis. And so that could be something that makes the program enticing. There's also things about the Blue Sky program that makes it enticing. Part of what the Blue Sky program does is it provides grants to community projects. I think you have solar on your roof here, thanks to a Blue Sky grant. We do too at Summit County. So it's a program that I think Summit County will also continue to support, while we also really want to push for kind of the larger utility scale change that we think URC has the potential for. So that's one comparison. Then RMP also has the subscriber solar program, which is a really limited subscription. In fact, they have not opened up more subscription to it. It helps to build one solar plant, but it doesn't have any plans to expand. And then obviously, as you mentioned, like folks have the opportunity to do rooftop solar, which, you know, we know that's not enriched for everyone and is something that renters can't do. So I think like depending on kind of a person or business individual situation, they have different options available to them. I think the thing that, at least like, I think for Summit County's interest in URC, like we were really, our council was really interested in like, how do you do renewable energy at a community-wide level when at the end of the day, we don't choose who our electricity comes from because we're served by Rocky Mountain Power. And so I think for my council, that's been a big motivation to like stay in this, is it feels like it can have kind of that community scale transformation. And so that's, yeah, kind of one of the things that has kept Summit County motivated at least.
And one other data point that I was interested in the burden of cost. It's listed that somewhere near 60+% is burdened by businesses. And that's something I'm still looking into. And that would be a concern also when we're looking at, we don't have much commerce.
Right.
So with that, the lack of that burden being significant enough, would that go back onto our residents?
Got it, yeah. So there won't be, so the costs for the program, if we were to sort of look at like, what is URC cost and like sort of like look at it as its like own pot. So there's going to be costs to administer the program and get the program started up. And then obviously the biggest portion of the cost has to do with those new clean energy facilities that would be coming online. Those costs will get distributed across customers, sort of in, I'm trying to get the terminology right, but I think like by like those rate classes, right? So your residential rates, your commercial rates, your industrial rates, those rates are going to be set on like a per kilowatt hour, per energy usage basis. And that will not change whether you're a business located in Cottonwood Heights or a business located in Midvale. That will just be kind of like how your rates already are. It's a set rate. It isn't dependent on community, and there wouldn't be like shifting between the different customer classes based on sort of the proportion of, yeah.
But when rate stabilization becomes an issue, then those that are within the program have to burden that cost.
Yeah, so that was, thank you for bringing that back up because you had raised that. So I think on like a sort of a worst case scenario, if we were to see mass opt-outs of the program, that would be a concern that we would have is, so you have that kind of product cost, but you have, say, half the number of customers to split that. One of the ways that we're trying to avoid that happening is that instead of bringing on like all the clean energy that we think the program can support at once, is we're going to try to bring that on incrementally. So for the first resource that we select, which yesterday was an exciting board meeting because we were voting to move forward with 4 bids to start negotiating contracts with, ultimately realizing we may only execute with one of those, but we've been in this long RFP process since last year. We would bring on, let's say we would start with one resource that ultimately is not enough to meet the total renewable energy goal of the program, but we launched the program with that resource. Keeping the rate as low as possible, we'd have the initial opt-out period and we'd sort of have a chance to sort of stabilize. And so I think what we would see is that because that first resource is sort of nowhere near meeting like the potential total amount of new energy that comes online, there shouldn't be like a rate shock that happens.
Until new resources come on.
So I've been asking questions because I want to learn more. What I've heard is that it's flexible. And that the goal of the partners is to keep this cost $3 to $4. So they can say, we're not going to start that new project because we can't afford it. So that they can keep the cost low, because Salt Lake City, one of the big cities, has a lot of low-income people in their city that might not be in the low-income program,
Right.
but have limited funds.
Yeah.
So they don't want this to be an expense for them. On the other hand, we have the costs of our environment. So we have, if we can make our air in the general shed of Utah, air shed, improved through this, we're going to be making benefits to our health costs. So there are costs that we can't quantify.
They're not tender.
Yeah,
I understand. That's why I started that
yeah,
when I first started out, but I also get concerned about all of these other issues when we have a whole plate of issues to solve as a municipality right now. So this has to be known by all of our residents,
right.
and they have to, and they count on us to educate them to a certain
Yes.
point. And I know people have to educate themselves
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
And that's what my goal is here, is to educate folks. And, you know, we talk about poverty, we've got over 7% poverty rate here in Cottonwood Heights. So
Yeah.
we have to consider those folks as well. But I think, you know, and I thank you for the clarity. I thank you for being here and sharing with us. For me, it's just still a hard pill to swallow when you have two programs there. One, you're telling people you're gonna be in this no matter what, and then figure it out once you're in there. And the other is you can choose to be in this program. And it's solely up to you with the same parameters around it. That's a concern for me, and that's what the kind of clarity I needed to bring to our residents, but it's not to be argumentative or anything else, it's just making sure that we add that clarity to what's really going on and what's happening, so that people can make the right choices, and then they come to us to say, this is the choice we want you to make.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to do.
I also recognize that I can talk for a really long time about this program, so like I could totally keep chatting, but I know you have other things on your agenda too. And I do want to say, like, I'm, you know, pretty passionate group of folks that are involved in URC, and I think other elected officials from other communities are also like open and willing to chat to. So I realize, like, I have my particular perspective, but you might appreciate getting to chat with another.
Well, I'm here to learn.
official. So,
I'm here to
yeah.
learn, and that's what I've been doing, is doing research so I can
Yeah,
learn more
totally,
and figure it out. So, yeah,
Okay.
we have to make the most informed decisions.
Yeah.
That we can.
totally.
Okay, I see Councilmember Burrell
Thank you. Since we're doing both agenda items together, I have prepared a statement that I would like to go on record with. And that is that the URC, Utah Renewable Communities, is actually quite different than Blue Skies, because it is a transformative, it's something that could bring about in the state of Utah the kind of projects that Rocky Mountain Power has been unwilling or unable to do over the last 10 years. They basically have not advanced another major renewable energy program in Utah in the last 10 years. So for all of us who see this tremendous need for our air quality and other things related to putting more CO2 into the air through continuing to get our energy predominantly from fossil fuels, this is a chance at half the cost. If I sign up for the Blue Sky program, the average household consumes 1,770 kilowatts of electricity. I believe that's a monthly. And so for me to be able to make the effect that I could have through the Utah Renewable Community, I would spend twice as much. So, and it would have relatively little effect because it's something that, you know, what percentage of the population participates in Blue Sky is likely very minimal. So this, again, transformative opportunity is something that I want to see nudged along in the years that I've lived in Utah. This is something that the Utah legislature really stepped out big time. And I just want to remind and go on record that the Cottonwood Heights Resolution 2019-03 passed, and I'm quoting, a plan to pursue a goal of achieving 100% renewable electricity supply for the city operation by 2022. And within the entire city by 2032. So this is something that was passed as a resolution by our city council. Additionally, Cottonwood Heights Resolution 2021-43 adopted an interlocal agreement in conjunction with Mill Creek and Holiday that cites, and I quote, sustainability goals and suggested practices, including energy development and energy use, is something that we are going to focus on. So there have been amazing strides made by our city, and I advocate that we continue this momentum. And so, and we are, the last thing I'll say is that we know that the world, when we look at the world, 50% of the energy they're getting is from solar. Solar is our opportunity to, while we need to look at the worst case scenario, the what ifs, things could get more expensive, we're opening the door, if we go solar, to seeing them get less expensive, because that's what's happening around the world. We're on a trajectory that solar is bringing down the cost of energy. And the last thing is, when we talk about nuclear being on the plate, nuclear is still, in the very best case scenario, 15 years away. So what do we do between now and 15 years from now? We need renewables that the URC can advance for our grid.
One more question.
Mhm.
For those that have an in-home business,
Mhm.
would they be rated different?
Great question. May I follow up with you?
Yes.
That will depend on
Or not?
the rate schedule
Yes.
they're on with Rocky Mountain Power, and I'm actually not sure if in-home businesses tend to be on a business rate or a
I think they're
residential
using
rate.
residential,
Okay.
but there's.
We could look into that.
Just want to see. 'Cause
Totally.
There may be a few anomalies.
Yeah. Yeah, good question.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I did just also want to say, it's like funny to be at another community's council meeting, because I was just in a meeting today. We just used Flash Vote we're working on like a solid waste plan revamp in Summit County, so we used it for that. Our planning department is also updating our general plan, so I was like, oh my gosh. Right. This is really funny.
We're all in this together.
I-
right? We're all in this together.
Does Councilmember Highland, do you have any questions or comments?
I do, thank you. I do have a couple questions and then maybe a couple follow-up comments after the answers to the questions. I have been trying to understand a lot too, even listening to the 3-hour Public Service Commission meeting in December, and it's a 188-page transcript. So I know there's a lot of eyes on this program. A couple of things I'd like to have you answer if you know. I know that we're saying that we're trying to keep this to $3 or $4 a month, but there's nothing, well, there is a cap. And what the Public Service Commission was arguing a little bit about is how do you account, what makes for that 10% cap? But my understanding that this resets, the charge to customers will reset every year. So we can start this at $3 to $4 a year. And then as Councilmember Newell has alluded to, the more people that opt out, the higher the cost to those who are still in to keep the program. And I recently read an article in the Wall Street Journal about how Virginia had committed to $10 billion for wind power. And now their taxpayers are on the hook for $20 billion because of extensive program costs that they didn't anticipate at the beginning. So the resetting charge every year, I'd like you to answer if that's true or not. And then the second concern that I have that I'd like you to address is there's no termination opportunity for our community once we're committed if the costs become too burdensome for our participating citizens. Is that correct? No termination opportunity, no divorce if we don't like the program once it's going?
To your first question, what has been proposed is that there would be an annual rate adjustment, which, at least from my understanding, is much different than like a rate reset. So the rate adjustment that would occur annually would account for things like whether administrative costs were different than what was impacted, kind of similar to, there's a little bit of adjustment that happens in our base Rocky Mountain Power bills. In the case of that, it more has to do with like fuel costs having been higher or lower than what was predicted. That won't be relevant with URC because we won't be subject to those changing fuel costs. But there would be an annual rate adjustment. My understanding is that that would be very small, as opposed to something like a rate reset, under which perhaps everything would be sort of back under the table. But Councilmember, if you don't mind, I'd love to follow up with you on that one, just to, as you mentioned that the Public Service Commission hearing was really long, and I can't remember, I did sit through it. I can't remember if Rocky Mountain Power provided any estimates of what that might look like, and I can check in with some URC colleagues to confirm that for you. And then on the second question, my understanding with the way that the ordinance is written is that should a community adopt the ordinance and then customers are enrolled, that when the program is implemented, when it kind of gets off the ground, there will be the termination period starting from 60 days before it would start being reflected on customer bills. Extended through 100 days after would be that no cost opt-out period. After that point, a customer would be able to opt out at any time, though there is a proposed termination fee for customers. And I think potentially your question was a deeper one, though, about like sort of the community leaving the program at that point.
Yes.
So I think my understanding is that there is not an off-ramp like that contemplated in the ordinance, but that is another thing that I'd like to double check with our outside attorney that we have for URC. That's I think if I was answering this question for my counsel, I think that's what I would also answer, but I can also confirm and get back to you on that.
That would be great. I did talk to another council member in another city, and I know that what they projected is that at least 20% of customers will opt out.
Yep.
And my concern is if we have a huge opt-out in our city, and then that leaves a burden for the rest of the citizens, that our community can't exit the program once we've committed. So I know we're talking about some things that are unknown yet, and I want to reiterate to those who might be listening that we are committed to renewables. We are committed to clean air. We are committed to our planet. It's not if, it's how. And that's what's being debated right now is this the best plan? What Councilmember Newell, I think, has been trying to say, and some of us in the room, is that blue sky, although right now the cost per kilowatt might be higher, blue sky is predictable cost to participate. It's not going to be a reset cost every year. It's not going to be determined by how many people opt out. You know that as a customer, you can purchase for $1.95 per block, 1 or 20 blocks, and you know what that's going to cost as a consumer. And so our angst with this, of course, besides the fact that we're opting everybody in involuntarily, is that the costs seem to be unknown. And I wasn't any more comforted after listening to the Public Service Commission meeting that those costs may not be much, much, much higher than anticipated. They might be lower, but judging on the energy demand that is being coming from companies now for AI data centers and others, there's going to be a lot of competition for existing energy. I hope that means that we'll have more people who will look for renewables to be able to power all of these, the data, the energy hungry data centers, but that also might be to our detriment. So the unknowns are causing me angst. As well as the not being able to terminate. I really don't like that there's not a divorce clause. There should be, and that is holding me back significantly.
Hey, do you have a question?
Just one other question, just made me
Yep.
think about. So with new growth or ownership changes, are those residents or those businesses, are they given? I'm assuming they're opted in, are they given notices again?
Yes.
If anytime there's an ownership change as well? In property.
So the only reason why there wouldn't be kind of that noticing period and termination period would be, let's say I live in Salt Lake City and I was part of the program, and then I moved to Cottonwood Heights, which is also within the territory of the program. My participation status will stay with me as a customer.
Okay,
There is, so in the proposed program, and part of it, I think, is laid out in the act and the rules too. It deals with things like, yes, you know, if somebody moves from a non-participating community into a participating community, or if you had customers that were annexed into a participating community, it triggers a similar noticing and termination period. I wanted to make sure that I'm covering, that I've got notes for myself on what I was gonna follow up on, so I know I'm gonna send the draft ordinance that your team can review. To the last couple of questions, I'm gonna confirm my understanding that there's like no off-ramp for community post ordinance. I also want to sort of confirm what we know about the annual rate adjustment, like what kind of scale of adjustment that might be. And I feel like there was something I was gonna follow up with.
Yeah, we're gonna follow up on the in-home businesses.
Oh, yes, perfect, thank you.
I think that's tracking people that have 220 power to the homes for things that they're doing.
Right.
If they have a shop or something.
Right, right.
I have two just final questions and then a statement. I'll wait till Emily's ready. Further questions.
Perfect. I'm starting an email to myself, so I see it tomorrow morning. Okay,
Is it true that URC would be about half as cheap as Blue Sky?
that, I would hesitate to say it's true. Our estimate based on our goal for the price of the URC program, that is what we estimate that the price difference would be.
And is it true that it would be a creation of new renewable energy sources for our state that we don't currently see on the forecast?
Yes, I think we are the only sort of major resource solicitation that we know will happen at least through the close of the decade.
Thank you. So for me, these are the two big reasons why I support this program. And I just want to again reiterate that I served in the legislature for 5 years. And I understand the impact it is for me to see that our legislature passed this in 2019 with two-thirds majority in support. That was a big statement from our state legislature. And I just want to remind us all of resolution number 2019-66, which is in our packet, which was signed by the 4 council members that were present that day. This is a resolution restating Cottonwood Heights Sustainable Energy Policy. And I'm just going to read a few of the bullets that are important to me. Whereas the city's governing body desires to take actions which promote the health, safety, and welfare of the city's residents, whereas this council desires to enhance the economic well-being of the city and its residents through prudent management of the city's financial resources. So our city has already given 21,000 at the initial onset of this program, and the 18,000 that we are going to be giving if we stay in the program is probably less than our Arbor Day program. You know, I mean, this is not a huge cost in our city budget. Whereas the energy sources utilized by within and by the city, therefore can impact public health, safety, and welfare. Whereas recent advances in the field of energy technology have made renewable energy more economically viable than in the past, and in some cases more cost-effective than traditional energy sources. And whereas the city is a principal gateway to Utah's world-famous mountain recreation areas, and with the ski industry being an economic contributor to the city, and one which relies on the preservation of the environment and protection of natural resources. And I could read more, but I think looking at this winter, this is not an anomaly. This is our future. That is what I hear when I am in natural resources meetings at the state capitol and when I go to summits about the Great Salt Lake. We are not forecast to have snow by 2050. The students at the University of Utah that enroll in environmental sciences courses are required to be able to have counseling because our future is dire. So for me, this is why our city leaders back in 2019 signed this resolution and got us on board. And it is vital for me that we stay involved. So thank you for coming, Emily. And I'm happy that it's an opt-out and that we will make it as clear as we can from the city that it's an opt-out. But it's important that we have this opportunity to create more clean energy for the grid. And so I'm excited. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, now we have another staff report from our city manager, Jared Gerber, about the budget and citizen update.
Okay, so I apologize. This is a quick turnaround.
Yes.
We decided at the retreat that we wanted to do a citizens budget committee as we move through this process. And since we are already in budget planning process, we decided to have a week where people could present or turn in some applications to try to for this committee. As a reminder, we agreed at the budget retreat that there would be one from each council district and then 3 at large, but that it would have to be an approval by the council as a whole as to the full 7-member committee. So I know I didn't get it out to you until about noon today. That's our deadline was the end of the day yesterday. So we worked hard this morning to get them all put together and out to you. And want to thank Beatrice and Tiffany for working hard on that today. So this is really a discussion as to whether the process we want to go through at this point. I've reviewed the applications. I think there's probably 8 or 9 strong candidates that have budget experience that could probably help us work through this. Out of the, I didn't count them, 20 or so that were turned in. And evening those out as much as I could between the districts, it came out pretty good. So this is really a discussion. I don't want to influence you, but process wise, I could come back to you with a recommendation, or if you have certain ones you're strong about, we could go through an interview process. We do want to start these meetings next week. And then we would bring this to you on the 17th for ratification. The next week, we'd like to have kind of an educational session with this group so that we can kind of start this process, because Scott has tight deadlines on getting the budget prepared and ready and for your approval. So we're well into the season, unfortunately,
Yeah.
even though it's only February.
Yes. Yes.
And we can discuss them, or if you want to talk about process. I don't know how you want to, this is new to me because usually I bring one person to you to add to a vacancy on a committee. This time we're establishing a new committee, so.
I think a quick discussion of their background
Okay,
would be helpful.
Thank you.
each one or,
Each one, because there's a lot of folks that we don't know.
We have time, right? This is an
yeah,
important
we've got
discussion.
time. So there will be, I would try to kind of summarize as we go through. So from District 1, we had 2 people apply. We had Brian Nordberg and Mike Shelton. Most of you know Mike Shelton. He was on the council for a few years. Has some background there. Brian Nordberg says he has 25 years of experience focusing on data warehousing and analytics. I don't know if anybody wants to expand on that, but he's worked a lot, and it looks like he has a lot of experience with the analytics side and the analysis of data and so.
Well, may I suggest that we perhaps review each district as we go through, since my understanding is one will be selected, and that'll of course be for District 1, Councilman Holton's. He'll put forward who he wants to see appointed. And I understand that we're trying to make this decision today in this meeting, is that?
Or give me direction, and so that we have enough direction to kind of move forward and bring a proposed list to you on the 17th.
Well, one of the things I feel strongly about is that I think we have an amazing community of people, and I'm very interested in seeing people who have an interest in getting more involved, be able to do so. I've watched over the last 4 years, and I'm very appreciative of the people who continue to serve year after year after year, whether they've been on the council or the planning commission, and then they're put on various other committees because they're a known commodity, and I appreciate their service. And I also really feel strongly, I'd like to see other people in our city have a chance when they come forward to serve, to be advanced. And so I have met Brian Nordberg before. I know he has analytical skills are part of what he does for a living. So I would say that I'm interested in seeing the city look seriously at Brian Nordberg in District 1.
So I'd like to have clarification. So you don't, if we did not decide today, it would be our staff deciding?
Typically, committees, and we haven't established the resolution for this committee yet. Oops, that'll come before the 17th, but typically committees are appointed by the city manager after interviewing, after talking with them, and then bringing a recommendation to you. They either apply through the website or somebody puts them up, and then we still have them go through the website, so we have all the documentation, and then we interview and bring those recommendations to you. This is new for me.
So for the training next week, would we want them to be in place by next week?
It would be nice if we had more than 7, maybe we have a couple that we bring in as alternates just in case they get appointed, but I would like to narrow it down today.
I would too.
So when I looked at it, and this just comes from my background, I was looking at it as an application for a position, because we did have some criteria that we set out for them to qualify. I'll just read those to you real quick, because it's not like a job description. Must be resident of Cottonwood Heights, obviously, have a basic understanding of municipal budgeting and financing, understanding revenue sources, service requirements, trends, et cetera. Have a willing to act in an advisory capacity to the council, understanding they're making suggestions and recommendations to the council. They are in a decision-making body. And then have a time commitment, because again, we're tight. We're gonna meet at least once a week. We may meet more if we need to, if we can. For at least 4 weeks, if not more. So we want to make sure they have the time commitment, because it's going to be really hard to miss a meeting for these. And then also they would, this can't be a real criteria, but it's the willingness to work with other people, set aside your personal and special interests, and just kind of sit down and work through this, understand. We can understand and work on trying to get to why we're where we're at today, but we can't go back and change those decisions. So we need to move forward and come up and put the problem solving. So those are kind of the criteria we put out there. The biggest one being they understand budgeting. So that's kind of how I looked at it as I went through them. But again, I'm not gonna tell you my 7 yet.
And that's why I wanted to just get a bird's eye view of.
Okay, let's
the
go through them
background.
quickly, like council member.
So those are the 2 from
Suggest-
District 1. I did talk with Councilmember Holton before he left, and he would put forward Mike Shelton on that, obviously. Got a background, he's had the experience on the council.
Well, and I would point out, he's already serving on the planning commission, and he's on the general plan update land use subcommittee, but
Yeah.
only a few
Yeah.
people are privy
And
to that.
because we did decide it would be, that the count, didn't we say it would be upon our council approval of
Yes,
of them?
So-
Okay.
I mean, you could, anybody else you could still keep as an at-large as your recommendation as well. Next one would be District 2, and we had 1, 2, 3, 6 people apply from District 2. Make sure I'm going through this.
So I emailed you, Jared, rather than me
Yes.
interrupting each time, I emailed you what I had seen, and I had taken 8 people out because they didn't have budget experience, but the 2 from District 2 that I was interested in at least interviewing were Jonathan Owens and Elizabeth Benson.
Yeah, so I think Jonathan Owens was the first one. He currently is a senior financial analyst for UTA. He's worked with UTA and other agencies as in a budget capacity. So that's kind of the background he's got. Our increase, if you remember, worked here. So she applied, not a budget, but a marketing background. She did work for the city as a permit technician for 4 years. Elizabeth Benson is the next one. Sorry, I would have summarized these if you.
That's like, this is just quick synopsis.
So Elizabeth has been 25 years as a business executive with expertise in continuous improvement, operations, change management, merger and acquisition, budget fidelity, and project leadership. It's nice when they have a little work for several corporations. Lynn Kraus, and if I kill anybody's name here, I apologize if I say it wrong. Lynn is an IT professional, experience developing and maintaining software in multiple industries, primarily healthcare.
I might add that Lynn Krause has also been a citizen who has studied the budget coming out of Cottonwood Heights since the incorporation of the city. And her husband is a CPA.
Councilmember Burrell, I had her on the list to be interviewed for an at-large, but for my district, I was interested in the 2. So I just want you to know that I support talking to her as well.
Brad Buswell, local Cottonwood Heights resident homeowner. Let's see. Like work experience is
An engineer.
in engineering and working in wastewater. A lot of volunteer work, some Parks PTOS committee as well.
He's a project manager, which requires budget.
Yeah, and he is on the PTOS committee. Stephen Jones. Sorry, some of you know these people and I don't, so. Senior project manager with 20+ years of experience, in looks like software development and sales and management. Randy Prazen, I think most of us are familiar with Randy. And Randy filed to run for District 3 this last time around. Worked in a call center, director of operations and management, retail food, and that's his background. I'm trying to go quick. Trying to give everybody the same. Ava Chan, most of you have probably met Ava. She's been heavily involved since she moved here. Has a background in finance and I think moved to Cottonwood Heights 2025, right?
Yeah.
This last year, but she's been heavily involved, strong financial background in risk management. Gary Barnes serves on the planning commission. He also has a background in finance, worked for several years consulting and also in for banks and for trusts and things. So. Tyler Farouk. Sorry, which district am I in?
3.
Still 3. Okay, I moved on to 3, sorry. We started Randy, I moved on to 3.
That's good, that we've
I
had so many
forgot.
citizens.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of response for a 1-week turnaround, so we really do appreciate that. Tyler's a finance manager at Republic Services right now, has worked in finance for quite a few years, it looks like, as an accountant. And then we've got still in 3, right, Lisa?
Yep.
Last one in 3, Lisa Flutie, right? Anybody know her?
District 3, 11.
Lisa is a real estate agent, looks like she's been a realtor for quite a while and a pharmacist prior to that. And then we get into District 4 and we've got 2, 4, 6, 7 from District 4. So we've got Dennis Magaro, and if you know them, please feel free to jump in.
Dennis Magaro, yep, he's sitting
Did I
here.
say it right?
Pardon?
Did I say it right?
Figure blood, Dennis McGarrett.
Yeah.
I might have a little bit of an issue with the commitment. My wife's having major knee replacement
Oh,
3 weeks from today.
I just did it. I understand.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if I can be there every one of those meetings,
Okay,
because I have to pick up the granddaughter
yeah.
and that sort of thing. I gotta fill in, we normally share the duties.
Okay.
I'll be doing that. So all that kind of came up, and that's one of the reasons I'm here. I'd like to. I really would. I think it's really important to get citizens involved in it. At least a little bit of input. But thanks, Matt.
Thank you. Robert Warther. Looks like he has a lot of government experience looks like a lot of it's in the nuclear industry, but as a project director, for a lot of these things, and an operations director, deputy manager for a lot of environmental and nuclear projects.
He has a BS in mechanical engineering from Cornell, so. Analytical.
Kayla Lengel, anybody know how to say that? Lengel, no second Y.
She was on the town center envisioning committee.
Okay.
She works in
Oh,
the
I-
finance arena.
Financial manager for Department of Health and Human Services right now. So Eric Cron, which I think many of you are familiar with. Eric's been involved in a lot of different community initiatives and push for transportation and things like that, so.
He's a local small business owner and he has an MBA.
And we got Wesley York, who is an operations support manager for Maverick currently, has done a lot of project management, project improvements. He is Lean Six Sigma certified, which is kind of nice as well. Christopher Pitcher. Looks like sales and CRM software, so Salesforce, that's his core competencies. Dynamic and results driven account executive with 20+ years experience in exceeding sales quotas, driving revenue growth, fostering client relations.
He also came to meet with me last week during my office hours.
And Jerry, you know, Jerry?
Feedy, Jerry
I was
Feedy.
gonna say Feed or Feedy. So. And Jerry is financial and operations and managerial consultant, currently chief financial officers in the past, so lots of background in finance.
He has a
So.
bachelor's in accounting.
Hey, that's a good list.
No, my breath, so I try to read and talk, so.
Thank you for that. We're really happy that we had so many citizens apply and that really is wonderful. I would be happy if we could choose tonight. I know we have Councilmember Highland. Are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay,
I'll put that back up.
so and then I know we have the choice, I guess, from Councilmember Holton. He will be back. He had to go back to the Capitol, but he'll be back. So maybe we each of you who have a council, do I get to choose one at large? I mean, a member?
We didn't really say, I think we just said three at large recommended, and I think we talked about having you recommend them, but.
Yeah.
I'll kind of leave that up to, we didn't really set a firm.
All right, so I guess we let the ones in the meeting still choose someone from your districts. Oh. yeah.
Sorry to be a stickler. We're not supposed to make decisions in work sessions, so maybe this would be viewed as a recommendation from each council member.
Okay.
So it's a recommendation for me to meet with them, have an interview, and then bring the list back to you for the 17th.
And then they could, even though it wasn't official, they could start meeting with you next.
Yeah, because we're just doing an educational
Okay,
meeting, and again, I think if you recommend more than 7 people at this point, then we could probably involve, as long as it's not too many people in that first meeting, at least until the is finalized. I don't know what your thoughts, Shane. Because we're not gonna set the committee tonight.
Yeah, I guess.
As long as we don't make
it's
any,
clear what the status is.
yeah, we don't anticipate the first
Feelings
meeting
hurt.
having any kind of recommendation, or, I mean, there's a lot to absorb in a municipal budget, so Scott and I are trying to figure out the best way to get that all condensed into that first meeting, so we won't be making any recommendations or decisions in that meeting to send to you, so.
I didn't know that we were all choosing, that we had the power to choose one from our district. I thought there was just going to be one from every district. So Was that agreed upon, that each one would choose our own, or do we
Yeah,
get
we-
a list of 7 and we say yay or nay as long as there's at least one in every district?
So we talked about having each council member make a recommendation for one from your district.
I think we used the word appoint.
Well,
Did we not? I believe if we check the meeting minutes, it was the word appoint.
with
A
this
recommendation.
appoint or recommended, but either way, it was approved by the council as a whole. It'll be approved on the 17th, so. But 3 at large and then 1 from each district as recommended or appointed by that council member. And then approved by the council as a whole. Does that make sense?
And how will we select the 3 at large?
We never really,
We'll have a discussion here as quickly as we can.
Well, we were provided these at noon today, so I know I have studied this and, you know, given this a lot of consideration. So I appreciate that we're using our work session to advance this.
I think given the time constraints we have, we need to.
normally we wouldn't rush this.
Yeah. So I think, we know that if we start with, District 1, that Councilmember Holton would like to advance Mike Shelton. And that I also join, Councilmember Burrell in wanting to advance Brian Nordberg for his community involvement. He was on one of the 17 people that put their name to be on our council when we had the tragic passing of Councilmember Doug Peterson. So he's been trying to be involved in our city and has not been on any of our committees that I'm aware of. So we have those 2 names. And then if we go to Council District 2, Councilmember Highland.
Let me pull up my,
You want us to go to Councilmember someone else while you think?
yes, because I don't have I can't, it might be limited by my internet because I'm on Zoom, but I can't pull the resumes back up. So it was Jonathan Owens or Elizabeth Benson for me. Please go forward and I'll see if I can pull up those resumes again.
Councilmember Newell.
Yeah, Tyler Caruth, his background is interesting to me. Ava's also serving also on another, and I really want to get new blood in the
Yes.
conversation.
Yes.
So that would be 1 and 2, but Tyler would be 1.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's a good way for us to maybe each council member give 2 suggestions so that we have a 1 and a 2 from each district. That's a great idea. Thank you, Councilmember Newell. Councilmember Burrell.
For District 4, my first choice is Eric Cron. And my second choice is Jerry Feedy.
All right.
I think I can go back and say that I would, just based on the look at the resume, it would be Jonathan Owens first and Elizabeth Benson second. I
Okay.
think they're both very strong.
Okay. So, and I think Councilmember Holton, if he was here, would probably put Mike 1 and Brian 2. Although again, if we, as Councilmember Newell just said, if we're looking at bringing more voices into these processes, Mike Shelton was involved with the last time we had a tax increase as a council member. And so it would be good, in my opinion, to let someone new like Brian Nordberg be in there. So now we are down to 8, and so maybe we keep all 8 and one of them be an alternate.
I like that idea.
Okay.
That's very solution oriented and I can support that as well.
And if I can't make a motion here, but I would make a suggestion that we make Mike Shelton the alternate because of his vast involvement in our city.
Now,
Can you remind me who is District 3? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that while I was looking at resumes.
Tyler Caruth and Ava Chan.
Okay.
if there's no argument, we haven't set a resolution yet. If you wanted to do 8, I think we could handle 8.
I'm good with 8.
And that way it doesn't cause any.
But we might want an odd number.
Yes, I think.
I think 7 is really, as I said
I think
before, it's
7 is
heavily
good.
researched.
Emily makes it. So that is my suggestion, that we go with these 8 with Mike Shelton as the first alternate. And if I, as the mayor, get to put forth a name as an alternate, I would put Lynn Kraus because of her vast decades of involvement as a citizen.
I'm sorry, did we just expand the committee to 8?
No,
Okay.
it's 7 with 2 alternates right
Okay,
now,
thank you.
If you want.
if we want.
Deal with that.
Okay, is that enough alternates?
Yes, I support that.
Okay. Then we will bring that for a vote next business meeting. Okay, in our next, on the 17th. Are we okay, Shane?
Is there gonna be an interview process? I had understood that, I'm just trying to square this with.
Yeah, I think
appointments usually occur.
I will try to reach out to each of them, see if I can get them in the next week and talk with them, make sure they understand the commitment and what's expected of them before we move forward.
I guess I would just suggest that that's a tentative thing, because we don't want to be making a decision here. I think that there needs to be an interview
Yeah.
opportunity, so.
Good.
I just wanted to make sure
To be decided, I would say.
yeah.
Good. Okay, thank you. We're still moving on, kind of on target with our timeline. Yeah.
We're good.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. And again, I hope we'll send an email thanking all the people that applied. I'd be happy to help with that.
We'll send something out in terms of.
Okay. And now the final item under our staff reports is a discussion of the old mill, and that will be turned over to our Community and Economic Development Director, Jim Spun.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. So I'll also be brief with this. The staff report did a great summary of the happenings, but I just wanted to brief the council to let you know that the city's planning department has received an application from the owners of the old mill to demolish the structure. Per the city ordinance, it requires a conditional use permit that will be reviewed with the planning commission. Their first public hearing was held in January on the 21st, and that initiates a 1-year process that's required by code for them to review the materials and determine, what they're going to decide. There's a 2-part equation to this request. So the part 1 is the CUP, the conditional use permit. The second part with the demolition request of a historic structure is a certificate of appropriateness, which the city council would issue. So there's kind of these parallel reviews that will be happening. The planning commission's conditional use review, like I said, has to take at least 1 year. And then after that, the applicant can apply for the certificate of appropriateness, which the council then has 90 days to decide. So the planning commission can't decide with less than a year, but the council has to decide within 90 days.
Of the planning commission decision.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, the timelines can overlap a little bit, but being that you'll be seeing this review, we just wanted to let you know that it's on the horizon. If there's anything specific that the council is interested in knowing, we're certainly happy to come back and present materials. The planning commission packet from the 21st had a lot of information, which may be really helpful. It's also important to note that the review criteria for the planning commission is going to be a little different than what the council is reviewing. So it's the same request, but the boxes they have to check are different based on the 2 parallel reviews. And then I guess one question that the staff had is the owners of the structure submitted 3 different studies that they had conducted in 2022 and 2024, I believe. Let me pull it up here. Those were also included in the planning commission review. They had
I'm sorry, who
Sorry.
conducted these 3 studies?
Yeah, so the first one is 2022 from Rivalry's Engineering. 2022 was an engineering assessment and feasibility study from Gilson Engineering. And then Gilson Engineering also did a cost analysis to mitigate any impacts. I mean, that was 2024. In 2024 also, the city hired Calder Richards consulting engineers to review those 3 studies that the owners
Do their own.
have submitted. So,
Yeah, I read that today.
yeah, so the city hired an engineer to review the engineering studies of the other studies.
Now,
And they,
Studies other than the ones you just named?
we sent the studies to them and they reviewed the studies.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank
Essentially.
you.
The 3 studies submitted by the applicant.
Got it.
Right, and their findings, backed what those initial studies had also said. So I guess we've got until January of next year, or at least until January of next year, to collect more information, data, research. There's a number of questions that we asked the applicant to answer. Staff is also working internally to answer some questions that the planning commission raised. So if there's anything specific that the council would like to know or be aware of, we're certainly happy to come back. We can come back in a future meeting and report on progress with the planning commission or any relevant information. We just don't want to surprise you next spring when it comes to you for a decision. So we want to make sure you have adequate time to digest whatever information you need.
So during the 1-year period of public comment, my understanding is that's how the code reads.
Is-
1 year of public comment.
It's not necessarily public comment. It's just the planning commission has to review the application for at least a year before they decide. So
So there's
They-
no, Shane, do you mind telling me, isn't there verbiage in our code?
No, I have-
During the 1 year waiting period, I thought they called it a public waiting, public it wasn't public comment, it was something to the effect of, it inferred public scrutiny during that 12-month period.
yeah, it just says the application has been pending before the planning commission for a period of at least 1 year before they can make a decision. So according to code, we've technically fulfilled the public hearing requirement by law, but the planning commission is aware, and we recommend as a staff that we continue to engage the public throughout this year, just to get more input. We did get quite a few folks that came to the meeting in January, expressing concern of, losing a historic structure, and there were a lot of great comments. So I think that was good for the planning commission to hear, so that they can get thinking about how they want to approach the topic over the coming months. So
There's a public comment section in every planning commission business meeting, and so people can come in and talk about the old mill during that time period. Public hearings are kind of special things under applicable law and required noticing and things like that. So we don't like to use the term public hearing unless that's what we're really doing. But there will be the opportunity for public engagement in the planning commission meetings over the next year through the public comments section.
yeah, and then like I said, the review criteria that the planning commission uses is going to be a little different than the council. So in the staff report, I included a reference and a link to chapter 15.15, which are the criteria that the council will review for the certificate of appropriateness. So that's my report, and Mayor and Council, like I said, I'm happy to come back and give you updates as appropriate, or however you see fit.
So, and the next step, I think, for us is to actually hire an outside engineer. We'll need to go through our RFP process to do that, so it's unbiased. We've had people offer to go look at it and take, to assess it, but I think in order for it to be unbiased and to be by the book, I think the city probably needs to hire, since Alders didn't actually go out and do a physical assessment of the site, we probably would like to go out and have, if you're okay with that, to have a third-party engineer go out and assess the site with the cooperation of the owners.
Are those prior reports available
Yes.
public?
Yeah, they were all included in the planning commission packet.
Okay, and the Calder.
So that one wasn't, but I'll include that in this next
Okay,
planning commission meeting. So the planning commission will talk about this item again on March 4th.
okay,
Is when they continue the conversation. So at that meeting, we'll provide them with the letter, but we're happy to share that.
The packets are up online on the planning commission site, so if they go back to the 21st planning
Okay.
commission, it'll be on there, and then the March 4th will include the columns, or if they want it, send everything requested.
Yeah, and our expectation, and the planning commission actually requested that we keep this as an item on all the agendas moving forward. If there are any updates or additional information, staff will brief them. So there will be a lot of information that's.
In their work session, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so as far as the selection of the outside engineer, I agree that it needs to be opened up and find somebody qualified and unbiased, whether that ends up being an RFP process or an RFQ process is, I think yet to be decided. I think that under our procurement policy, we can hire people based on qualifications without them necessarily being the lowest bidder. So I think we probably need to look for
Thanks for the
somebody
clarification.
that's well qualified as well as maybe being.
Yeah.
I just went through our normal process just so
Yeah,
it's all above board and
that's
follows our code.
that's exactly right.
I appreciate the city doing that because although it says independent engineering reports, there's skepticism because of who paid for the reports. So having our own engineering assessment, I think, could corroborate or challenge what we've already seen. So I'm grateful that we're planning to do that.
Just so the council and staff know, I have also met with the owners this last week, and we're having good conversations, and I'm sharing that information, what I'm learning, with appropriate people, so I think we're on a good path. I think my goal is that by the end of this year, we're at peace with whatever happens, that we've done a thorough assessment and I know Shane is laughing, but that is my goal, that we can have peace with whatever the ultimate end is.
Well, I'll tell you my bias right now. I've lived with that thing for a long time, and I don't know that I would ever be at peace if it's taken down. And I'm sure everybody around the table is the same way. But as far as being at peace with the process, and that we have done all that can be done, I think that's the goal.
Yes, that is the goal. Hey, now we'll take a few minutes to review our calendar and upcoming events. And as I go through these, if any staff has anything that they'd like to share, please go ahead. The first one is the Asian Arts and Culture Association Lobby Exhibit, which is going on now until February 17th. Then we have the Lunar New Year celebration this Saturday, the 7th.
Starts Monday. The Asian
Oh,
Arts.
the Asian Arts, okay, the lobby exhibit started on the 8th of January and will go to February 17th. Yeah, and then the Lunar New Year celebration is Saturday, February 7th from 10 to 12, and I may have most of my family members.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's so
I'm
great.
hoping. And the senior bingo is at City Hall Wednesday, February 8th. 18th at 1:30 p.m. at City Hall. Thank you. And our local business Smartest Artist Lobby art exhibit, it starts on Monday, February 20th. It goes to the 18th of March. And the Jazz Ambassadors of the United States Army Field Band will be Thursday, March 19th. From 7 to 8:30 p.m. at Butler Middle School, and the tickets are required, but this is a free event. And I know that. Okay, that's all we have here. Okay. All right, and does anyone have anything to add about these events? No, okay. Since there's no need for a closed session this evening, unless there is any other business for us to discuss, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, and then we will reconvene at our 7 p.m.
All in favor?
Oh, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We'll reconvene at 7.